Alright, welcome back everybody. This is part 3 of character creation in War Within. This episode is going to specialize in dungeon runs. So if you haven't done one yet, this will be a quick little explanation of the tabs, buttons, roles, and dungeon quests throughout your first dungeon. So we'll get started here. To bring up your Dungeon Finder panel, you're going to click I on your keyboard, or if you go down to your controls down here on your bottom right, there's a little dragon eye that says Group Finder. Click on that, it does the same thing. So when we get in here, you're going to see a couple of different tabs and nodes on the top here. And this we'll go through a quick explanation. Dungeon Finder, Raid Finder, and pre-made groups. So Dungeon Finder is going to be your main one. Okay. Raid Finder is going to be for when you're up to raiding level and your gear is raid appropriate. So usually that's not till end game when you're max level and you've done through regular dungeons, heroic dungeons, and now you can move on to Raid Finder and eventually raids. Pre-made groups is a little bit more specific. You can do this at level 50 and it's more for custom things. So custom groups or world bosses, world events, farms, stuff like that. I wouldn't worry about that right away. You can't do it to level 50 anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it at all. Dungeon Finders. So you'll get to here, you'll notice there's a tank, a healer, a DPS, and a little flag icon here. The tank one is if you have rolled a tank character, such as a warrior, a DK, a druid, or a paladin. You'd click on this one, okay? If you're a healer, you'd click on healer. Or if you're a damage, like I am, my rogue here, I got damage clicked. So this final one is a experienced player. So if you want to lead the group, or if anybody has any questions and they ask, you are telling them you have the answers, you can, lead the group through this dungeon. I would suggest not doing that if this is your first run with the game. Or even you're coming back to it and this is all new content. Most of the groups you're going to come across now probably have most of these speed runs kind of down, and they know exactly what they're doing, when they're doing it, and boss encounters and mechanics and all that. So I wouldn't worry about this at all. I don't even know if I've ever clicked it, and I've been playing this game for a long time. So move on to this drop down menu here. Right now it's set as Random Dungeon Dragonflight. So we're in the Dragonflight expansion. So let's click down and we'll go through these one by one. Follower Dungeon. Now this is a dungeon that Blizzard will give you NPCs to play with. So instead of doing the typical 5-player route with other players in the game, you are going to do yourself and 4 others for this dungeon. So the game will provide a tank, a healer, and 2 more DPS if, like I am a DPS. Once again, we're in Dragonflight, so the only dungeons you can pick from are dungeons in that expansion. So moving on to the next one, specific ones, this is the exact same, except now you're playing with actual players. So other people on the server, different servers, you'll be playing with actual players. Codex Acromi. Now this one's a little bit specific because it's a world quest or a world event right now. It's for the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft. So if you went to the anniversary grounds, which are in Tanaris by Keepers of Time, you would be able to hand in this quest, and you'll get Chromie's goodie bag and these bronze celebration tokens. So these are basically a currency to which you can buy different gear. You can buy mounts. You can buy pets. So it's fun to do. I mean, and this event, this anniversary event, will end on January 7th, I believe. So there's not too much time left to do it if you want to go ahead and do it. If you do, there is a boatload of quests and achievements. And there are bajillions of how-to videos and run-throughs out there right now. Wowhead's got Wowhead, Icy Veins, and then there's one other one. They've got all walkthroughs for all of these things. So go ahead and do that if you want to. It is kind of fun. You'll get a lot of experience through doing all the quests there, so it's not a bad way if you're bored and don't want to do any of the normal quests here. Next one is random Dungeon Dragonflight. So like I said, this is our starter. This is going to be kind of the bread and butter for your dungeons until you are probably of raid level, or you want to switch. If you halfway through Dragonflight, if you say, I'm sick of this, I want to go do something else, I want to go do Draenor, or I want to go back to vanilla, that's fine. You can do whatever you want to, but as for now, you're kind of stuck doing Dragonflight stuff. Next is heroic. So once you get your gear to a higher level, i.e. yourself also to a higher level, you'll be eligible for heroic quests, which all they are is it's going to be the same dungeons, just at a higher difficulty. So little bosses will be harder, they'll hit harder, they'll have more health, and generally they don't take like any longer amount of time, but you just have to have better gear for them. And then finally, the random time walking dungeon. So these are also an event. The time walking events happen every few months, so don't feel like, oh my god, it's a limited time deal, I can't do it. They come around often. I will say this though, it does change onto which time walking event it's going to be. So time walking refers to the expansions. So this one is classic. So this is time walking classic dungeons. So all the dungeons that were available when the game first came out 20 years ago. So vanilla or the OG dungeons. And again, you'll get as a reward these bronze celebration tokens and time warp badges. Now, time warp badges are also another form of currency that you can use at time warp vendors, and those will pop up in different cities according to whichever expansion they're in. So if you were in Cataclysm, they would be in Dalaran. If you were in Mists of Pandaria, they'd be in the Jade Forest. If they were, in Wrath of the Lich King, they'd be in Northrend, Dalaran, and so on. So the only difference now I would look at between this one and the regular one, the regular Dungeon Finder, is the experience and the rewards you're going to get. So with this one, you're going to get gold and 18,200 experience. And the time walking, you're going to get the tokens plus 27,300 experience. So kind of a big difference there if you're leveling up. And a lot of times during time walking events, a lot of people are doing them, so your queue times are going to be a little bit shorter. So I would encourage you to do those, especially if you are a healer or a tank. Generally, you're going to have shorter queue times as a healer or a tank because healer or tanks are more sought after for dungeons, okay? So you can get 3 DPS anywhere, but you need to have a tank and you need to have a healer. So if you rolled one of those classes, good for you. You're probably going to have shorter queue times. Now, that being said, we're going to probably do a time walking one just to see what it's kind of like here. Now, the time walking ones, like I said, are going to be the original content, so they're going to be older stuff. So you might not have seen it so far if you haven't done one. If you have experimented and gone through and done some dungeons already, you may have seen just current content ones or whatever expansion you're in. So getting kind of a kick out of the old dungeons is kind of fun. You can kind of see, where it all started in a lot of these different places. And that being said, we'll come back in a few minutes here once our dungeon queue has popped. If you look right down here, you can see we've got an average wait time of 14 minutes. So it's a little bit long. So I'm going to give this a quick break, and we'll come back once the dungeon queue has popped, and we'll go into the dungeon. Alright, and we're back. That was quick. So our dungeon queue has popped, and we're going to enter in and start the dungeon. We'll see what it is here. Assuming we get everyone that clicks on. Sometimes you'll get it where not everyone clicks. In that case, you'll get re-entered back into the queue. But in this case, looks like we're good to go. So, first thing you're going to see when you pop in here is all the people you're going to be with. Okay? Like I said before, you'll have a tank, a healer, and 3 DPS. So, big rule of thumb is when you're in a dungeon, let the tanks do all the pulling. There is really no need for you to do any pulling. Tanks are built to take damage, and healers are meant to be healing them. So all you gotta do is worry about damaging people and kind of killing them off as quickly as you can, and the game's gonna go pretty smoothly. You know, if anything gets a little too out of hand and people start pulling stuff without tanks noticing, they're gonna get angry, and you know, not they're gonna kick you from the group, but you know, people might start complaining and getting pissed about it. Right here, you'll see there is a dungeon quest. So I would suggest going ahead and picking that up. Looks like a lot of these low-level guys are going to pick it up as well. So get as many quests as you can in the dungeons, and complete them best you can too. Sometimes groups won't want to do quests because they've either all done them already, or they just want to speed run through, because the faster you get through a dungeon, the more dungeons you can do, and therefore, you know, more experience. So kind of depends. Hopefully you can get through a bunch of them. Do your best. If you have any questions about dungeons while you're in there, like progressing through, or the best way, or how do I avoid getting hit by this, just ask. People are usually pretty receptive, especially if you're learning. You know, they'll kind of give you a heads up like, hey, do this, or don't do this. Either way, don't just sit there and try and figure everything out by yourself. Most people will help out. And if you don't know how to do that, actually, now that I think about it, type in / and P, and that'll bring you into your instance chat, which is going to be considered like your group chat. So the people who are in the group with you, then they can respond and answer questions for you. This dungeon itself, this is Dire Maul. This is one of the longer ones. So what I think we'll do is we'll just kind of fast forward and kind of go right to the end when we hand in all the quests and complete it. But rule of thumb, like I said, for most dungeons, don't stand in stuff and let the tank get aggro first, and don't be pulling off them. Should make for a pretty smooth run. So this actually is the first boss here. So we'll kind of get rolling with this guy. And once we get through him, then we'll go and do our pause till the end a little bit. This guy's actually pretty easy. Most dungeon bosses are going to have some kind of encounter or some kind of I guess mechanic ability, so you kind of need to watch out for that. And like I say, if you need help avoiding these abilities, these mechanics, go ahead and ask. There's no reason not to. You know, no one's gonna be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. No, just do it. People will help you out. Okay, so we'll get this guy down, and then we'll hit the good old pause button here. This is pretty intense, actually. These guys aren't dying. Too many of them. Look at this big guy. He's just screwing things up. There we go. Alright folks, we'll come back in a minute once we've kind of fast forward through this and get towards the end. Alright, so we're back here at the end, and it was about a 20-minute run, so I'm going to just hand in these quests. Now when you do this, you'll get a bunch more experience and a bunch more gold, so always do that. And then this time, this guy wants to re-queue for another dungeon, so we can just pop right in to another one and continue on. It's pretty handy when that happens. So I opened up my talent screen here just to be kind of on the safe side. Whenever you complete a dungeon, usually you'll level up at least once, if not twice. So if you can and you know what you're going to do with your points, go ahead, put the points in right away. That way you at least know you're going to be getting every possible benefit of your abilities that you can. So go ahead, do that. And as soon as this other dungeon ones goes or pops up, we'll go in. Look at this with the tank. 54 seconds is the average queue time. Insane. So, but with that, folks, I think we'll leave it. If you have any questions or comments, throw them in the comments section. Give it a subscribe, a like, and a share if you like. But I'll try and put out some more content when I come around to it. So thanks again, and everybody enjoy and happy hunting.